just before we dive into the video, I want to let you guys know we have an awesome giveaway running right now with the guys over at Gamerchic for everything you see on screen. If you want to get involved, be sure to click that link in the description box down below. And if you want to save some money on buying Iceborne in the UK, then you can go over to their website and use the code Arekkz Gaming, which makes it one of the cheapest places to buy right now. Hey, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, welcome back to another video for Borderlands 3, and in this one I want to take some time to go through my flak build. I've currently played through the whole game, got to the end of it, and throughout my entire playthrough I have gone through all the different skill trees, and they're all good in their own ways. The way that I've typically categorized them is that the green tree is really good for condensed damage, just like really big damage numbers, and also solo survivability. The orange tree is just kind of a good all-round balance. You can kick out some really good damage with things like the Arekkz. And if you really want to double down and focus on your pets, then obviously the blue tree is where you want to go, because that really bolsters them, makes them, gives them a lot more survivability, makes it so that they can just do a lot more damage. And generally speaking, if you want to get the most out of your pets, that's kind of where you're going to go. However, having now messed around with all of them, I've ultimately ended up back where I started, on the green tree, because I love the damage, I still love the jabber, and it's just the one that I've been having the most success with. So, in this video, I'm going to quickly go over my build, show you guys what I'm using to do the most damage, and hopefully if you guys are, unsure as to how you want to spec your class, this might give you something to aim towards. So, starting off, we dive into the menu and go over to the skill tree. You can see that most of my points have, of course, been specced down this tree. Your main ability is, of course, Fade Away. The primary function for this is that you go invisible, and whilst invisible, unless, of course, you mod it differently, then effectively you get a guaranteed critical hit on your next 3 shots, which is really, really nice. It stacks a lot with a lot of the stuff that we're going to be speaking about in this build. So it's a good way to, escape enemies, reposition, and just line up some big damage. Plus, obviously, you also get health regen and movement speed in that, so it's pretty nice. That's your basic action skill. And then, of course, your pet for this one is the Jabber. I will say that Jabber is probably, even though I like him from a design point of view, probably the least useful pet. He doesn't seem to fire his gun as often as I would like him to, so a lot of the time he just ends up I feel like he's not really doing much. Maybe I'm just not using him right. Either way, he's still cool. The way that I've modded him, he's got a rocket launcher. I can still use him, but I'll be honest, a lot of the focus on this tree isn't really on my pet, it's more so on my personal damage. Now, beyond that point, I then spec 5 points into Furious Attack. With this one, it's a hunter skill. After shooting an enemy, I get a stack of Furious Attack, and for each stack, I get better handling and gun damage, and this, of course, decays after a few seconds, but bear in mind, this is not a kill skill, this is simply on hitting the enemy. So if you've got weapons that fire rapidly, if you've got weapons that maintain constant pressure on your enemies, then, of course, you can get your most out of that. The reason I didn't spec into anything else is because I'm not really worried too much about my max health or anything else like that, so primarily, top line, 5 points in Furious Attack. From there, I then spent a further 5 points in Overclocked, which again gives you increased fire rate, and of course you then gain even more fire rate after reloading. Increased fire rate means I'm putting out the bullets even faster, means more damage in a shorter burst period. Of course, on top of that, I've also spent some points in Eager to Impress, which is a kill skill, and whenever a flak kills an enemy, my action skill cooldown is reduced, and of course, the quicker that I have my action skill, the more frequently I can go invisible, meaning the more frequently I can then line up those crits. Plus, whenever my pet kills an enemy, it also reduces my action skill cooldown, so basically, this revolves around just trying to kind of get me to use that skill more frequently. Then moving down to the third line, I put some points in Turntail and Run, which basically means that when I'm moving, I regenerate health and I gain damage reduction, but more importantly, when I'm standing still, my gun damage increases and my fire rate increases. So again, if I'm in a position where I'm in a boss battle and I want to dish out a lot of damage, although sometimes you do need to be moving to avoid being hit, when you really want to line up the shots if you stand still, then obviously you get this bonus. Then going down from there to the next line, I actually spent 3 points, but because of my class mod, it's actually giving me 5 in this. But basically, when I'm above half health, it increases my gun damage and my movement speed. So again, very useful if I sit with this and I can kind of, stay out of danger, be out the line of sight, and just basically keep my health topped up, then obviously I get more gun damage. You could obviously pair this with some kind of health regen to ensure that you can be in this position, but I've kind of preferred to just spec down to the point where I just try to avoid being hit too much, and then it seems to be working out for me. On top of that, I also have Hidden Machine maxed out. When an enemy has no target or is attacking a different target, I also deal increased damage. So basically, if I'm playing in team play and someone else is getting the brunt of the attacks or the heat, then I can kind of just go over there and do some more damage, and again, it's really, really good. Nice for team play. Obviously, if you're kind of soloing, maybe you might not necessarily use this too much. You could, of course, lean more into having your pet draw some aggro for you, in which case you can still benefit, but generally speaking, I've done all my stuff through co-op, and this has been pretty helpful so far. And of course, this all rounds out at the end with the power inside, which Flak and Flak's pet gain increased damage when I activate an action skill, which again is my fadeaway skill. So I go invisible, I get increased damage, and if I'm at full health, the increased damage is doubled. So if you link all of this together, I then get increased handling and gun damage when I hit enemies. I also get increased fire rate, and even more so after I reload. I then get additional damage if the target is not targeting me. I get additional damage if I'm standing still. If I'm above half health, I get even more gun damage. And again, if I'm at full health, I get even more damage. So all stacked together, pretty handy. Of course, for the mods over on the side, I have the Until You Are Dead, so health regeneration and movement speed of fade away persist for a short time after the skill has ended. It's kind of just a useful thing. Obviously, after I come out of being invisible, I can benefit from that. And then lastly, I have Unblinking Eye, where successive hits on the same target increases my critical damage per hit. So again, if you have those fast-firing weapons, that can of course help out. Now, that's what I've spent in the green tree. As mentioned, I also made Jabba the Gunslinger Jabba, because then I can target him to fire out a rocket, plus by being accompanied by him, I get increased movement speed and critical hit damage. Now after that, I then went over to the blue tree. The main reason I'm here is for this central skill here. Basically, just by putting points in this, I increase my gun damage. This one I didn't choose. It's purely based off of my class mod. It just happens to have some points in this. I don't need it because it obviously says the first melee attack on my pet is a guaranteed critical. If I really wanted to yield benefit out of that, I would swap the Jabba to the second version because he has a bat and he can actually melee, but honestly, this is just because it's on my class mod. If we then go over to the orange tree, this is where I spent the remaining points. I put 5 points in Interplanetary Stalker, which is another stack-based skill. Basically, whenever I kill an enemy, I gain a stack of Interplanetary Stalker, and for each stack of this, I gain a bonus to all damage dealt. Plus, you also get a unique stacking bonus depending on the type of enemy that you're fighting. So, if it's robots, you get corrosive damage. If it's humans, you get action skill damage, movement speed on beast, things like that. Basically, I went down here because now I've got two different stacks. I've got the Furious stacks from the green tree, and I've got the Interplanetary Stalker stacks from the orange tree. On the second line, I then put 5 points in this, which again increased my weapon handling and my critical hit damage. And then on the third line, I put a point in this just because, I happen to have one in my class mod. I've got one of those class mods you'll see in a minute that gives me skills in either tree, but it does also have a chance to add an extra projectile per shot, which isn't bad. More projectiles, more damage. It's all pretty handy. So tied together, that actually works out to be a pretty potent combo. On the weapon front, I am still obviously in a position where I'm just kind of gathering weapons as I go. I have an assault rifle just because it means that I get that kind of sustained fire. I also have a pistol. I'm just trying to sort of split them up. I got the shotgun that I got today from the One Punch Man Easter egg. If you guys haven't seen that, check that out over on the channel. And I also have a sniper if I want to line up some of those big heavy hitters. If I want to sort of sit back at the map, I want to go invisible, try and sort of stack everything together and then just pull off a big shot, then obviously I do have a sniper. But I will say that these are not my perfect weapons of choice. I am still working through just farming weapons, so this is definitely subject to change. Largely speaking, the build focus is more so on the skills. Weapons, you can kind of pick and choose what you want. There will come a time when I eventually get a weapon that perfectly synergizes with my build, and when I do eventually get to that stage, I will be sure to do an updated video. But for the time being, this is what I'm running with, plus the class mod. As mentioned, you can see it gives me 2 points in the green skill, 2 points in the blue skill, 1 in the orange. But the nice thing about this one is that myself and my pet get 35% additional damage against enemies above 75% health. So picking on fresh enemies that haven't been, attacked yet, I can also deal some more damage. So all of this, as you can see, I'm trying where possible to piece together something that just stacks damage on damage on damage as much as possible. So pretty handy. Outside of that, I've got a fun grenade that when you throw it down, it kind of creates these sticky mines, and then if enemies walk into them, it basically fires these rocket barrages down. And I also have a legendary class mod, which gives me a cooldown reduction on my action skill, which again means I can go invisible slightly more frequently. But yeah, overall, that is a rundown of my current Flak build. It's what I've been using to deal most damage. As mentioned, I have been through all 3 trees. I've had a lot of fun with them. They're all very good in their own different ways, and I probably will be doing other Flak videos on other builds for those of you guys that are interested. If you really want to make your pet work for you, then let me know in the comments down below, because I can definitely show you the pet build that I was working with. But for the time being, this is what I'm using. I'm in the end game now, running through some of the activities, just trying to sort of blitz things as fast as possible. So stacking all that damage definitely works nicely. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then a like would be super appreciated. Any questions, drop them in the comments down below. Let me know what else you guys would like to see. And of course, keep it locked for plenty more.
Some days you are hunted.
I really hope you guys enjoyed that video. Remember to hit that subscribe button and also click on the little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss my next upload. Also, don't forget you can check out TwoSixNine and Paradise Central streaming over on Twitch 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. Be sure to drop by and get involved. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.